Welcome everyone. To see a lot of folks jumping on here, and Liz, whenever you want to kick us off, whenever you moved.
All right, thanks, Monty. So you'll do the housekeeping stuff second, not first.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to give a welcome to everyone who's joining this call. We know that everyone is really busy, and finding time to carve out to be a part of these gatherings just seems to be getting harder as opposed to easier. A couple of things that I want to just share before turning it back to Monty. One is that, across the region, the ACH and our partners are talking about shifting from a focus solely that's talking about improving health to really how do we embrace notions around well-being, belonging, so that we end up with a region that is creating a space where everybody feels nurtured and safe and has the elements that they need in order to actually recover from this COVID period, but then to thrive as we're moving forward. And so we have been bringing in national experts to kind of spur some dialogue, but also wanting to make sure that we leave time for partners to be talking to partners. That's harder when we're not all standing in rooms and standing outside during breaks and such, but this is really an opportunity for us to do a bit of a deeper dive following the session we had a few weeks ago about mental health and well-being. And we want you to be able to share with each other and to hear from a couple of our partners about the work that they're doing. So just thank you all for joining. If we go to the next slide, I would like to start with our land acknowledgement statement. We begin by acknowledging with humility that the land where we are today is the territory of the people of the Salish Sea. Their presence is imbued in the waterways, shorelines, valleys, and mountains of the traditional homelands of the Coast Salish people since time immemorial. And while we don't often spend a whole lot of time with the link that's down at the bottom of this, I really encourage you all, when you get a chance, to think about exploring, the place where you live, the place where you went to high school, the place where you got your first job, to just be able to see through this link where you can put in any address and see the traditional homelands and the people who were there, to explore that and just continue on your own journey about learning about the tribes all across the country. So with that, Monty, I'm going to turn it to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Liz, for kicking us off, and good morning, everyone. I'm Monty with the Community Initiatives team, and we're really grateful to be on this journey with you and through this learning series. As Liz, pointed out, there was a session that kind of led up to this, kind of a little bit larger picture around mental health and well-being, and today is an opportunity to really dive into some ideas and some really extraordinary work that's happening locally with two of your leaders. And Stacy from our team, and some of you are already doing it, I appreciate that, are putting in your name, your pronouns, and your organization or community. And so thank you for doing that. And I'm really glad, I know as Liz said, this is a busy time, and so glad that folks are able to carve out time to be here. I think I'm optimistic you're going to feel like it was a good use of your time. So the slide, as you can see right here, is really, I'll do a light touch on some of that thriving together. Our focus is on one of those vital conditions that is part of mental health and well-being. We'll move into some expert conversations. And again, we have two really interesting local leaders. So that's Barbara Schultes, who is with Lopez Island Family Resource Center, and Rose Ness with didgwalic, who is doing remarkable work, known not only locally, but nationally for some of their work. So they're gonna share a little bit with you. And I think, as always, our collective team with the North Sound staff and CI you know, if there's ideas that you have or things that you're hearing that you just want to affirm from our couple of speakers and leaders here, please put those in the chat so that we can make sure that we're kind of responding to some of the things that you might want to explore or lift up towards the end when we have a little bit more time to kind of connect with each other as peers. Next slide, please. So again, Thriving Together is this broader framework that it contains really the vital conditions for how people thrive. Jumping back and forth, it's you know, always rooting ourselves in the legacies, and those legacies that affirm dignity and inclusion, and recognizing that even before this country began, that we have legacies that have inflicted trauma and exclusion that looks different by region. We have a meta story of our country, but understanding that we have an opportunity still to think about the legacies that we create for the future. And so this Thriving Together is really recognizing that we need to root ourselves in both the challenges and opportunities of legacy. Next slide. And this idea that these vital conditions that all people, no matter where they are in the globe and no matter where they are in their life course, rely on these vital conditions for thriving, and they are rooted in place. And so you've seen some of these, this idea of thriving natural world and clean air and water and the basic needs. And it's on these basic needs that we're going to really focus in on the vital condition of freedom from trauma and addiction and harm, and what it means to kind of move towards spaces of well-being. You know, and again, those other vital conditions around humane housing and lifelong learning, and really that last one, which is really an important one that you all have been doing through the North Sound ACH, which is how do we build our civic muscle, our ability to make change together collectively, and how do we do that in a co-created process with a real strong emphasis on belonging. So we're going to focus in on that mental health and well-being as a really critical one as the basic needs. Next slide, please. And this kind of concept that kind of links the vital conditions and links, you know, the idea of legacy is recognizing that it's kind of in the spirit and practice of stewardship, of working collectively together for well-being and justice for all people and places to be thriving, and to work across, you know, our differences to produce those vital conditions for everyone. And again, I think today, just in my little interaction with him, I think we have two remarkable examples of stewards in your regional community. And so on that note, Barbara, I'm going to invite you to kind of take it away and share a little bit about what you're doing on Lopez Island and in the region.
Thanks, Monty and Liz. It's wonderful to be here with everyone today, although I wish we were all together in person because I love the meetings that we normally have. Such an important opportunity to connect and share. I want to share a little bit about what we're doing on Lopez Island, Thriving Together, and our Achieving Greater Equity Goals those were what we developed at one of the last meetings that we were together. So we felt that these were the most important things for our community, promoting inclusion, healing trauma, celebrating strengths, and sharing power, that those are kind of our driving of what we want to get to. And so I wanted to share a little bit about our journey for promoting well-being, which largely is stemmed with stories from what we hear from our community members. As an organization, we typically have 60 or more clients with lifelong mental health needs. We know we have other, during the pandemic, we've had another 55 people approach us needing other supports because of life situations and anxiety and stress of COVID. And through all those, we hear a lot of stories that are shared with us that reveal trauma in ACEs and just a lot of things going on in people's life. And then the side of that, we also, because we're a small rural island, we have very limited Medicaid and Medicare treatment options for mental health on island. And sometimes some of those approaches involve cognitive behavioral therapy, which we just find are not a match for everyone. In fact, sometimes we hear from some community members that they feel like that actually agitates them and doesn't support their well-being goals. and we've had very limited crisis support. Sometimes crises end up with expensive airlifts, often always for both a physical reason as well as mental health reasons. And sometimes it leads to involuntary placements. And we just see this cycle of that happening over and over again for some people. And it's just not a good way for us to be, supporting people's health and well-being. So it kind of caused a search for empowerment and wellness alternatives. And one of the things that the staff really talked about is we really want to reduce stigma, because this is a downside. While we have a very loving, caring community, it can also be really hard if you get a reputation or something that you did or said in the past, and it can be really hard for people to counter that. So we really want to build connections and belonging. So this was kind of our driving force that led us on our journey. So what we kind of, when we're out there and staff were looking, one of the first things actually, some other mental health experts in the field had really encouraged us to look at peer support. So hiring individuals with lived mental health experience who can bring hope and support in a very unique way. And that was really missing in our county, and particularly on our island. So that was one of the first things that we did. Is we were very fortunate and got a grant from the Murdoch Charitable Trust to hire a peer support specialist, Muriel Schurz, who has been really incredible. And then in her efforts, she has been researching other things, because she could see that even just all of her one-on-one activities or small groups really wasn't enough, that there was this broader work that was needed throughout the whole community. So we started to learn about open source wellness, which our hospital district actually introduced us to, and then Hero's Journey and Breathe for Change. And I'll explain all these a little bit more, but all of these things are so crucial, bringing people together, kind of building a sense of community and connection, which we have found has been very powerful, and really bringing diverse people in our community, kind of having a shared experience and a really strong desire to honestly just connect and make friends, because they were lonely. But then the other part is kind of what I say, the big picture is really how can we address trauma and promote resiliency in our community. So we've been doing a lot of work with Teresa Posiconi with Emerging Wisdom. And so she's done a number of community-wide trainings. Particularly before COVID, we brought her in to actually, she met with the entire school staff, our clinic staff, as well as the resource center staff and some other nonprofits. And we still continue that on kind of virtually, but now we're working with her on something that she's calling the Common Connection Toolkit. And if you could flip to the next slide, I'll kind of explain all of these more, but I just want to set the stage that there's kind of these two major areas. But they're also very closely interrelated. So it's not like they're operating separately, they're very entwined with each other. So peer support specialists, as I mentioned before, individuals with mental health experience, and really it's about them using their own stories to connect with other people. We find the power of story and connection is so critical. In this, they use to guide and inspire people towards wellness by sharing hope and empowering them to take actions that work for them. And I think that's the really crucial part of this. It's not about, a therapist or someone telling people what they think they need to do, but talking through and helping people find their own path, similar to motivational interviewing, those kind of steps. And this involves, our individuals. Like right now, Mayuri went through the states, the healthcare authorities training, became certified as a peer support specialist. And we have 2 other staff who are in process of doing that as well. And then as a way to help support this work in the long term, LFRC has now applied to the healthcare authority to become a licensed mental health agency, but only for peer support. So not for the therapy, because that's a way for us to really support, individuals with Medicaid in a long term and really keep all of this work going. Open Source Wellness is a program, they call it a universal experiential prescription. So it's 2 hours once a week where you have movement activities, nourishing, healthy meals. And unfortunately with COVID now, it's been more talking about nourishing meals and health, food and nutrition. connecting. So there's always a component of social support and what they call B. It's kind of stress reduction, you know, a whole variety of different activities. Every week they always have what they call a spark, which is a really wonderful, kind of generates discussion. And what I love about open source wellness, which was started in San Francisco, I realized I forgot to mention, is that they really allow you to cultivate it and modify it for what really works in your community. So what we found is our OSW coaches really found that during COVID, doing it by Zoom, that people had a real strong need to share stories. So they're using a storytelling method as a way to really move and tie all these pieces together each week. Normally it would run for 16 weeks. We hired all community members with lived mental health experience. They went through a very extensive training with the open source wellness team. They spent a week in San Francisco. And then the OSW team came to Lopez for a week to train people. And that work really is both one-on-one as well as small group. And Breathe for Change is, Mayuri went through this and was trained. It's using mind, body, and social and wellness techniques with adults and children. And so far, it's really been focused on the school with kindergartens, grade K to 5. And the goal before COVID hit was to then expand it to the rest of school. And she was also providing this guidance to the teachers so that they could learn some activities that they could implement in their classroom. Some of that has been derailed now because of COVID, which then kind of led into the next thing this summer, that she worked with 3 of our therapists on islands, because we were hearing a lot of, particularly the older middle school and high school students were really struggling with anxiety. That was there before COVID, and COVID was really exacerbating it. So her and the 3 therapists created this 8-week-long program. It kind of combines some of the storytelling work of Joseph Campbell about the hero's journey. But then they also emerge in some equine therapy, because one of the therapists does that, a lot of outdoor explanation, body and balance awareness, exercise, storytelling, and art. So I guess the key point that I want to make here is just the power of having peer support specialists in your community and organization, but also really sort of empowering your staff to have the freedom to really listen and respond and bring all those community voices and work together on solutions. And then the next, I think there's one more slide. And then the other area is what I mentioned before is, and I love this quote from Teresa Posiconi, our bodies have an amazing capacity and are always adapting. Think of all the things we do, experience, and are capable of doing. We can rebalance the state of our nervous systems with simple self-care practices that reduce stress and pain while promoting relaxation. Right now, Lopez has had over 10 workshops with her, engaging your body with breath, movement, and ease. And I just want to say, for me personally, I feel like it's totally changed my life and has really made me stand back and be able to manage my stress and anxiety, especially in the COVID word. So I am so grateful to Teresa. And what we're doing now is taking one more step to really look at what we were hearing from community members is that they were feeling their state of anxiety was so high that even participating in these trainings was really, really difficult for them. It was really hard to concentrate and to even listen in what she was teaching. So they're standing back and taking a look at how can we really kind of start at a different level of addressing sort of that anxiety and what people are feeling. And so they're working on a new curriculum now that kind of merges these 4 different things: goal-based positive psychotherapy, and which I love. It's very strength-based. It's looking at what our own internal strengths and celebrating those and how we can use them. And also the science of hope, because we know how powerful that is for people to experience hope. And then the power of habit. What they're finding is if you establish a 5-minute a day habit with some of these things that they teach us, it can really, really, then you stick with it and they become habits that can really help you. And also understanding the brain science, because that's a big part of the stigma, is understanding that there are physiological reasons and things happening with our brain And so the more we understand this, and so the dream for this is to have our community really understand this broadly. We're going to pilot it with some use in a trusted adults, because this work is very powerful when you have someone to share this with. You have someone that you can talk about, is there to support you. You can go back and forth. But really the dream is, how can we weave this into all of our programs, our youth mentor programs, our work with adults, the peer support groups, because we just feel like this, if everyone in our community has a greater understanding of this, or you're at the grocery store and you see someone who's stressed, we have some ways that we can just talk to each other in a very caring way, that we can support each other because we have this shared language and kindness skills. So that's kind of our dream, is how can we take all this work and what Teresa calls the E's keys, and how can we really have our whole community understand this and support each other better. And that's it for me.
Barbara, that's really great. And just because we have a little bit of flexibility on time, we didn't prepare this, but I was just wondering, is there a story of a person or a group that really stands out for you, that has benefited or made a lot of progress, that may have been experiencing a lot of anxiety? Or, and again, you can say that for later.
Yeah, I mean, I know, so we heard from some of the youth that participated in Hero's Journey, how very powerful that was for them in learning these techniques. And actually parents often, that Hero's Journey this summer really just focused on kids. So that's why we want to take the next step with this work with Teresa, and include the parents or a trusted adult. So yeah, I mean, we hear lots of stories. People just express a lot of appreciation. Some of the people working in the one-on-one groups, open source wellness, I mean, it's like positive stories, but also tugs at your heart, because people are like, this changed my life. I was feeling like I was going down so fast, and being able to have someone to connect with has changed everything for me. So again, I feel like that connection and those personal stories are so powerful. And so important, because it's so part of the equity work too, because I just believe that when we're having those genuine dialogues and listening about what people need and are experiencing, we have to have that to make progress. Yeah.
And I'm guessing, as a parent of a couple teenagers, that just even having that pathway to tell stories and share in a way that might not come natural becomes a really valuable way of unlocking some of that.
Mm-hmm. And there's still, I find it's interesting. There's still so much, like, people are even afraid to use the word anxiety, or I'm experiencing anxiety, because they're not quite sure what the reaction is going to be. So if we can get to the point where this is just, it's part of all of our lives, if we can just talk and share about that, then it's so much healthier for our whole community.
Thanks, Barbara. Well, definitely, as Stacy points out in the chat there, any ideas that you'd love to just kind of affirm, or questions in particular that we can kind of jump back to after we hear a little bit from Rose and her experience. So Rose, I think we're going to share the screen and let you take it away.
Okay, thank you. Okay, very good. Well, my name is Rose Ness, and I'm the clinical director at didgwalic Wellness Center. And I have been with the Swinomish Indian tribal community for, I'm very blessed and proud to say, almost 3 years, and being part of a wonderful program. I just could not be more grateful. Thank you to the ACH for inviting me to share about our program. And Barbara, great presentation. I was writing some notes down, and will definitely be researching the Calm and Connection Toolkit, because it's great for clients and our community and the staff, I will say, most definitely. There was an email that went out inviting everyone to watch a video about didgwalic along with a fact sheet. If you have not had a chance to watch the video, I strongly encourage you to do so. It'll definitely be worth your time. didgwalic Wellness Center if you're curious about what didgwalic means, it means where the camas was dug. And camas is a native plant that native to the Pacific Northwest region. And for thousands of years, it provided food and nourishment and stability and tradition to the Coast Salish people in this region. And I believe that's where the name came from. We are a fully integrated program for individuals with substance use disorders that includes almost every single service you can imagine, which reminded me, Barbara, we're adding peer counseling, we're adding dental. I think we've got everything almost except a pharmacy for non-medication assisted treatment medications, but you just never know what's going to come down the pike. It's certainly possible for sure. We are located in Anacortes, Washington. We're in the middle of an expansion that will triple our square footage and double our census. Right now, our current census is over 340 individuals. I also want to say too that while a majority of our population does treat opioid use disorder, we also provide behavioral health services to those individuals who do not exclusively have an opioid use disorder. However, at least, if not more, 50% of our population has at least 2 substance use disorders. This program has been evolving for at least 10 years. Didgwalic did not just come up with a vision and the treatment model overnight. It started in the Swinomish Indian tribal community on the reservation. And actually the program is still going on today. It's called Swinomish Wellness Program, and it does offer medication assisted treatment in an outpatient setting, mainly with Suboxone, Subutex, and Vivitrol. And what they found with providing Suboxone, Subutex, and Vivitrol in their small outpatient setting on the reservation is that it's still difficult for individuals to follow through with the needed and recommended services. So for example, even though the medical clinic and the dental clinic is, just a parking lot away, a short little 3-minute walk, it's still difficult for people to follow through with those services. And the leaders and the staff in Swinomish Wellness Program it gave them time to identify the other barriers that individuals experience to basically keep them from recovery and fully engaging into services. We offer evidence-based medicine and practices. The picture here is of our social worker, every single staff, client, and or community member, if they want it. We teach how to use naloxone, which is a treatment for opioid use disorder overdose. And all of us have naloxone kits within an arm's reach of our desks in our program because we just never, and we have used it, unfortunately. And fortunately, though, it has saved lives. Our treatment model, it really, like Barbara was talking about, it's very trauma informed, and it really starts with staff attitudes in our job interviews. I mean, quite honestly, our clients do not come to us on a winning streak. If you want to work with a majority of well-adjusted individuals who have healthy, non-addictive coping skills, this is not the job for you out of the gate. I mean, that's ideally the goal for our clients, of course, but that's not always their goal, and it takes time. Like Barbara said, they have been, their brain has been in survivor mode with, feeding the addiction just so they can barely get their needs met. It's a highly stigmatized population, highly marginalized. And they come to us with extensive trauma histories. This is not an overnight process. Uh-oh, I can't, hold on, I just had a little hiccup with my PowerPoint there. So again, I hope that you were able to watch the video. The video does have in it 2 Swinomish Indian tribal community members who, as a result of fully engaging and participating in this program, are living full, productive, healthy lives and members of the community. And we just could not be more proud. All of our services, like I said, are completely under one roof. We're not missing much, that is for sure. And just a few of our services that you can see here. We do have an integrated multi-specialty care team. We get together clinically at least twice a week to discuss the care concerns, challenges, but also the successes that our clients are having. Successes are hugely important, like Barbara was sharing as well. And again, you know, it's also expected that non-direct providers or direct care providers like reception, transportation, child watch, that we are all basically trauma informed and that we are caring and compassionate individuals. The Swinomish tribe, they, you know, as I've stated before, this program has been well over 10 years in the making. And as a result, they were able to identify all of the barriers and target those barriers, such as childcare, transportation, any barrier. And quite frankly, the hugest barrier that remains today is at least 30%, and I honestly think that's underreported, are housing insecure. The tribe, when they developed didgwalic, they acknowledged that opioid use disorder, substance use disorder as a whole, for the whole 5-county region and beyond, their tribal members have a reciprocal relationship with this whole region. And they acknowledge that if the whole community is not given an opportunity to recover and to get healthy, that will negatively continue to influence tribal members. Just a few ways that we're removing barriers to care. Like I said, a lot of, one of the characteristics of this population is difficulty following through for a lot of different reasons. This population is stated as highly, highly stigmatized. One of the ways that we also remove barriers to care is through advocacy. We have pregnant families with us. They're stable on their medication, they're doing well, and they go get OB/GYN care in the community. And because the providers are scared, they're not knowledgeable, they hold a lot of stigma, our clients and families do not get treated well in some of those settings. And it's very unfortunate because we want our families to get OB/GYN care. And so we do a lot of community advocacy and outreach, offering culturally competent care. We have group curriculum, we offer arts and crafts. Of course, you know, I just hate to say it, but talk about the elephant in the room. A lot of this was pre-COVID, of course. And so we're doing a lot of online groups and support. And So we're doing what we can in the meantime to keep our clients engaged. We also offer a clothing bank. Another way that we provide community advocacy for the clients that we serve is we've developed a relationship with Fidalgo Rotary, and at least twice they have brought a beautiful breakfast to our clients that they served. All of the Rotary members, they lined up and they had, you know, juice and coffee and yogurt and fresh fruit and hot breakfast sandwiches. And the clients are so, so grateful. They are not used to being treated with dignity and respect. And it also, I believe, is helping the Rotary members see that these are real people with real struggles. And, you know, it's easy to stereotype and stigmatize without, it's an easy go-to unless you have the education, the knowledge, and the awareness. We also provide medication-assisted treatment to Skagit County Regional Health for those clients who are incarcerated. Our medical director shared a success story yesterday in our clinical staffing that the first time in almost 3 years, we were able to take medication to Island County Jail, which is huge. And now we're working on Whatcom County. So fingers crossed and a little bit more perseverance. It was, you know, the program works. We keep data. We do qualitative surveys for the clients to give us feedback and how, you know, they perceive the program. We offer suggestion boxes. Just in the last couple of months, I've had 2 phone calls from Skagit Valley College students who are now in the Human Services program. One client is still engaged in our program. The more you come to the program, earn trust, which is a whole different conversation, the more medication you get to take home with you. And she's in her final phases, very stable, again, fully engaged, and she reached out because she wants to do a practicum. Another college student, even though she no longer comes to the wellness center, she was a client, and you know, she shares how engaging in services allowed her to basically participate as a student at Skagit Valley College. And most of our clients with opioid use disorder, they come to us every single day. And I have worked in behavioral health for, 25 years, give or take a few months. And honestly, I was a little skeptical about people coming into a program every single day, and I just had my own ideas, and it turns out that it's huge having individuals who are high risk, crisis oriented, who are housing insecure, do not get meals, do not get any relief from caring for children, do not have transportation, do not get a compassionate ear, are huge protective factors for our individuals. We get to know our clients on a very personal level. All of us know if they're not having a good day. And if they're not having a good day, or they're just, even if their behavior is a little different than usual, whether it be good or bad, we can address that and we can compliment them on their success. But if somebody is really, really struggling, they're not on their baseline behavior, we can intervene right away and divert many, many crises. The video and educational materials are on our website, and I want to encourage everyone to visit our website. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great.
And I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Rose. And
okay.
noticed in the chat that a number of folks were acknowledging just how powerful the video is. So those who haven't seen it, it's definitely worth watching and really understanding this, amazing asset within this regional community. Rose, and again, invite folks to continue to put in any ideas or questions, and maybe we'll just move into a little bit of a dialogue. And Rose, just kind of building off what you had talked about, and and it's somewhat embedded in the video and some of the things that you said. You all have some remarkable outcomes over what you've evolved in the last 10 years. And just curious if you could talk a little bit more around how is this different than other programs that are addressing, trauma and particularly substance use disorders and opioid addiction?
Well, I think, we're very blessed to have leadership that want to have quality staff members in every single position. And that gives us an opportunity to make sure, or do the best that we can. Of course, it's not 100% perfect, but to employ people that really have the right attitude for our program. And that is an attitude of tolerance, an attitude of openness, an attitude of practicing cultural humility, an attitude of teamwork, an attitude of hope. A huge part of recovery is hope, and to just be as unconditional and non-judgmental as we possibly can. And I'm not suggesting that, we're all doormats and don't have any boundaries. I'm not suggesting that at all, but it's really willing to learn about the stigma and the challenges that our clients face, and to participate in trauma-informed care, participate in, have a desire and a willingness to learn about medication-assisted treatment and the barriers that folks face. And everyone has a different idea of what addiction is. And some were raised with, including our clients, and probably, some on the phone call about, well, just, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get on with it. And if it was only that easy. And like Barbara shared, addiction, behavioral health, it's a brain disease. And we don't treat people with diabetes the way that we treat individuals with mental health, substance use, or co-occurring disorders. So we try to have more of like a primary care attitude. We try not to be conditional, but we are, first and foremost, it's health and safety first. And if someone is jeopardizing the health and safety, clients or staff, which thankfully staff doesn't really happen. If someone is jeopardizing the health and safety of the clients, we immediately intervene. I'm not quite sure if that answered your question. It's a big question.
Yeah, no. You also, and again, we'll turn to you in a second, Barbara, but you use this term cultural humility. Obviously both of you and Barbara are talking about hope too. And I'm curious, given your relationship with Swinomish tribal community, to what extent some of those cultural assets and how that's been integrated into your work and thinking over the last, decade or so.
Well, the Swinomish Indian tribal community is very community focused. Pre-COVID, it has a monthly community dinner. It has annual traditions such as Blessing of the Fleet, a clam bake, and other cultural events, the canoe journey. And so the Indian tribal community invites all of the staff members to participate in most, if not all, of those cultural activities. And so it really gives us an opportunity as staff to learn about the culture, and it gives the community members an opportunity to meet and see us. We're blessed in that we have, some really we have tribal members who work for didgwalic and with us, and we use them, maybe not use, we access their knowledge and resources all the time. I was in my early on when I started, I was, well, I still am to this one individual, but anyhow, I was providing mental health counseling to a tribal member. And I had learned just like a few minutes before she was coming into her session that, and she, you know, one thing with the Native American communities, the grief and loss is just even too much to get your head around. And so she had a significant member of her family had just passed away, and she was on the way to a counseling session with me. And I'm like, I had a little mini freak out, you know, I'm like, I should not be the one telling her this information at all. And so I was able to run to tribal members and say, you know, what do we do? How are we going to approach this? And that is hugely, hugely beneficial. And, you know, they want to share the knowledge with us. They want us to do the right thing by their folks.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah.
It's also an expectation, you know, part of the staff training. We have people, you know, all staff members, for example, watch the Journey of Forgiveness, which talks about the boarding school experience with Native Americans. We, you know, we have a cultural orientation where new staff members are toured around the tribal community and learn about the history of Swinomish specifically. Those are just a few ways.
Thanks. Well, appreciate that. And Barbara, maybe to, you know, think a little bit around the longer piece. Both of you had mentioned that, you know, COVID exacerbated what was already some challenges in this community and like, you know, every other community that we know of around in this country, a mental health crisis. And just curious, as you're anticipating 2021, question for both of you, what do you see emerging? What are the trends that we should have on our radar screen? Some of them that may not be the most pleasant. And how are you anticipating the need to adapt both as an organization and for us as a community?
Barbara?
Big question. I mean, we're trying to carry the work on as much as possible, you know, virtually as we can, and hoping we can get to things back in person, and even like trying to be creative, like with the new Common Connection Toolkit. We've been in conversation with the high school, thinking that maybe what we could do is, because Teresa's in Seattle, maybe she could come up and we could somehow do an outdoor. The school has one area that's pretty large, like basketball court, so people could meet her. And that we have a very beloved taco truck here. So we're thinking, okay, food, dessert, and that we're gonna have like a big, make it a fun, come meet Teresa and learn about it, and just kind of talk. And because we're knowing people are craving like connection so much, that we can turn it into a fun social thing. People can learn about it and then maybe move it into Zoom. And if we were really lucky enough, the school has a really big gym, that maybe we could have like little pod sections that families could come, and in the future ones, we could maybe project Teresa in. But we just know that making that personal connection with, because it is impossible to meet Teresa and not kind of fall in love with her, is all I can say. I mean, I forgot to mention one of our staff members when we were first looking for trauma trainings, because I've been to a lot of trauma trainings by a lot of different, and so our staff member, Noah, at the time, they made phone calls to all these different trainers. And Teresa just stood out so much because of her somatic experience approach, and she's just so personable, and you learn things of how to deal with stuff. You don't just learn about the brain science and then almost get things stirred up, but you don't have anywhere to go. So she's like amazing providing these skills. So we're trying to be, I mean, that's an example of, okay, how can we be creative and kind of weave these things together? Or open source wellness, I was looking, okay, if this goes on much longer, maybe we need to deliver meals. And we have this great group here called the Locavores that do meals. So maybe we'll take some of those meals and we'll start delivering them to everyone's house that's participating. So just trying to be creative any way we can, think outside the box. So
yeah, you may have I think started to answer this question there in the chat. There's a question for you, Barb, just around how do you successfully engage the community to participate, especially youth and young adults that we know are especially challenged by anxiety. And I don't know if you want to add a little bit more on that front.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of, honestly, it's a lot of phone calls or attempting to just talk to people outside, social distance at this point. Luckily, I don't know. I mean, Lopez is small, so and we have an advantage where people know each other a lot. And so like the school counselor was, you know, recognizing this was going on. So she reached out to the therapist, and because Mayuri was teaching Breathe for Change yoga in school, like they all have a strong relationship with each other. So it was a lot of personal outreach for like Hero's Journey to engage those kids. The school's behind sending emails out to announce this to parents. The PTSA will get behind us and kind of spread conversations. We always put like a little, each week the school does a thing, and they always let the resource center, we call it the back page because it's the last page of their newsletter. And we advertise all the things that we're doing. You know, our food bank now, or which we're calling, we have changed our name. It's called the Lopez Food Share. We put in little flyers to that. And we also, our staffers, several staff are there. So we have a chance to talk and engage. We're distributing parent taught activity kits and food activities each week. So we just try to weave it into everything we can to spread the word.
Yeah. Social
media, etc.
Yeah. That's great. And I wonder if some of the other participants on this call that, you know, regardless of their role, are trying to work with, you know, schools and families or their whatever population group that they're serving and working with, if they wanted to do some of the same things that you're doing. It sounds like some of the stuff that you're doing could be scaled, that could be shared, and wonder if there are thoughts or questions around other people that might want to build on what you started, what's possible on that front. Barb.
I wasn't sure if you were talking to me or Rose.
I'll come back to Rose, sorry.
No. I know Rose does is way bigger and more. It is. You know, so what I can do is I can put in the email contact if you want to Ben and Liz, who do open source wellness, and Teresa's. Because I mean, really, that's how it started with us. We just reached out to them and had conversations. And like right now, one of the San Juan Island Family Resource Center, she's being an intern right now with our open source wellness team. So we're hoping we can launch that to San Juan as well that way. And also like there's a strong interest in how can we really start to have an open source wellness for youth as well. Again, because we're just finding that the more we have these multiple programs, it may seem duplicative, but it's actually more powerful when we bring people, that way you don't miss people, because somehow when you have these different options, you can bring people into it. So I will put their emails in the thing, and I'm happy to share more. But I have found both Ben and Liz, who are open source wellness, and Teresa to be super open. And Teresa's done a lot of work with some other tribes, other groups, other communities. I mean, she kind of has done a lot of work in a lot of different ways. So
yeah, that's great. I know in the whole work that the North Sound ACH and where it's moving from is figuring out how there might be places of building on, replicating, learning from. And so again, as folks are of interest, or if you want to chat in, if that might be a place where you all would be interested in kind of building on some of those resources, would be curious to know. And Rose, there's a couple questions. One, there's a question first about a little bit more around the journey of forgiveness, both the link and what that entails. And I think there's also a really good question just about the importance of representation when working with any community on any front, and what does that look like in terms of representation within your staff, or what are you working towards? So kind of the two questions there.
Okay, the first question, you can just on YouTube, put in the search engine, The Journey of Forgiveness. And I believe it's authored by White Bison and/or Don Quixote. And it talks about the genocide and in the Native American and boarding school experience. It's very eye-opening and pleasant. Thank you, Andrew, for posting that. in the chat box. And then would you repeat the second question?
Well, I'll read it directly. So this is from Jordan, unless Jordan, you want to ask it specifically.
I'm
Jordan?
happy to ask it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question around representation of staffing from my own personal and professional experience working with marginalized groups, communities of color, et cetera. Representation is really important. And so I was curious around your staffing, if there is representation for your staffing that matches the communities that you're serving.
Yeah, great question. And honestly, this is the first behavioral health program I've ever worked in that there is more matching and representation of our clients. And I think one of the main reasons is because of a fair amount of Swinomish Indian tribal community members do work for didgwalic.
Yeah.
And it's just inherent and with substance use disorder counselors that a lot of them have their own personal recovery, journeys of recovery. You know, that'll also be the case when we hire mental health peer counselors.
Jordan, does that help?
Yeah, no, that was great. I just yeah, was just curious about that because I know that with my past work experience, for example, like referring a client to a medical provider, but they were of different cultures, different races, et cetera, my clients weren't jumping on the opportunity to get connected necessarily. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah. Well, and that is still true, particularly when, you know, for outside provider referrals, even outside of the Swinomish Medical Clinic or like, you know, the Lummi Medical Clinic, specialty referrals can be difficult for folks. Yeah. So that is unfortunately still a barrier and they're not well represented.
Thanks for that question. And I know we kind of have this potentially going a little bit over the hour, but I also realize that Liz and Nicole have a hard stop. And so I just wanted to maybe give them a moment if there's anything that's popping up from your point of view around North Sound, ACH's perspective that you'd like to double click on or think about for next year.
Wow. I'm always clicking. My brain is filled with double clicks. So there's like a lot of things that I would love to see us follow up on, and, you know, appreciated Andrew sharing the link and, you know, the resources, Barb, that, you know, you're talking about sharing more globally. You know, probably for these two presenters, I have like two thoughts that just are surfacing. One is, you know, we just think about small communities as not being able to do big things. And I think that a lot of the work that's been happening on Lopez is just like blowing that assumption out of the water. And for didgwalic, it is, you know, and I can't remember, Rose, if you mentioned this, but, you know, for so long, what we've heard is it is the only site outside of Johns Hopkins doing the range of services that are present there. And, you know, that they serve people from, you know, that 50-mile radius. You know, it is like such an amazing asset to have here in the region, and to hear the story of how, you know, its origins came from talking to the Swinomish people and how that got designed, you know, it is such an incredible story and an incredible asset. And, you know, how we learn from that and be able to spread some of those learnings across the region is just amazing. So, you know, I hate having to jump off. I hate the ends of each of these meetings. So just really appreciate kind of continuing to share what's happening, and thank you both. And thanks to the CI team for continuing to help us foster these conversations in our little Zoom boxes. So.
Hey Liz, this is Andrew.
Hey Andrew.
We're not the only one anymore. Cherokee opened theirs up about a month ago.
Really? Oh my God, that's so exciting. That's awesome. And are they still thinking about something out on the peninsula? The Olympic Peninsula?
Jamestown has broken ground.
Wow. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That just like warms my heart to know that it's like growing.
And thanks for sharing the link. Andrew, do you want to just say a little bit more around what that looks like for Cherokee?
I haven't had an opportunity to visit. I know that they came out and visited us several times and based their opening up on the work that we were doing. But they also did a lot of work within their community to make sure that it was what their community needed and fit their community needs. It's pretty exciting. We continue to do tours virtually. So if you're interested in learning more about didgwalic, we're happy to share, or if you know someone that's got several $1 million that wants to invest in something similar, we're happy to do that work.
That's great, Andrew. And I know Stacy is, I just want to hit a couple other questions and know that some folks will start peeling off, which is fine too. How does service in Island County Jail work? Can you intake new patients or only see existing ones? Is a question to you, Barb.
Rose.
Or, I'm sorry, Rose.
Well, I mean, just with a week under our belt, I believe it's right now just our current clients who become incarcerated and they're on medication-assisted treatment.
Okay. Maybe it's a resource question too, that right now that may be limiting, but that might grow over time. Fingers crossed, you said, yeah. Andrew, and since you're on, any other pieces that you want to, given your leadership or places where you see some collaborative opportunities within the North Sound ACH? I know we didn't really talk about that, but just curious if you had any other thoughts on that front, given all of your relationships.
Well, we're continuing to work and collaborate across the region. We are working on a phase 3, which will include transitional housing, as well as to kind of address that need for of housing insecurity that we see continually with our clients. And we're going to add a inpatient social detox as well. But we continue to look forward to collaborations across the region. And we talked about the new one here at Island County Jail. And we're willing to go and treat patients where they are, and that's what the model is we try to go where our patients are, whether it be physically and they need transportation, or mentally, providing those services on the basis, whether it be daily, weekly, or whatever they might need.
Yeah. Great, thanks for that. Well, maybe just don't see a lot of other questions at the moment, but just to echo Liz, it's amazing to hear about the programs that you all are doing and the spirit in which you're carrying those out. I think this idea, Andrew, just building on this idea of housing, and both, Rose and Barb talked about housing and food, and that the fact that you all are taking such a holistic approach and realize that these pieces are interrelated, and housing may be one of the next vital conditions. Humane housing is one of the vital conditions that might come up earlier in the year, and I know there's all types of intersectional collaboration going on in that front, and that there might be an even bigger role for the North Sound ACH to figure out some collaborative opportunities around mental health and housing and food security at those intersections right now, particularly as we move into, unfortunately, what looks like a pandemic that's not slowing down in the near future. But the other piece that I pull from this is just how many times Barb and Rose use the term hope, and how important hope is, and how we gain hope from being with each other, and the humility to figure out how we connect with one another, and the sense of belonging that I think the North Sound ACH has been leaning into, for the last couple of years with some of the work that you all been doing with John Powell, and really that commitment to belonging and how we overcome stigma. So I'm really curious how that continues to play out, not just in your service programs, but how that might ripple out from what you all are doing as you reach more lives as a practice. So again, just a great reminder, as I think the last call I was listening on, because I didn't get to see it originally, is that we are not separate. We are pretending that if we operate that we are separate, if we are not interdependent, we're not living in reality. And the only way that we're able to kind of really move forward together is to kind of embrace, you know, our interconnectedness, and you all model that beautifully. So appreciate your time. So thank you, Rose. Thank you, Barb, and to all of the partners on this call and all that you do, and wishing you a healthy and well holiday break coming up. So thank you.
Thanks to the North Sound ACH. We really appreciate all that you do to make this possible.
Indeed.